China galvanized the relationship. It accelerated the pace. I think something that would have already that was already in the play, the China factor accelerated those trends.
Now that the dust has settled on the immediate hullabaloo of the visit, taking a step back, what has changed between India and US in the last 1 week?
I think what is striking is that how the conversations have changed. You would go back just go back a few years to a few years, and you would see most of our conversations. You'd be talking about, complaining about Pakistan. You'd be talking about terrorism. You would be talking about, that Americans don't share critical technologies. There'll be a lot of recriminations. And of course, you will be very defensive on domestic politics, the whole question of minorities and domestic politics in India. I think what has changed is how India and the US have recalibrated those conversations. Today, the conversations are about the future, right? Technology, defense, critical and emerging technologies. What do you do with them? How do you co-produce and co-manufacture defense technology, defense equipment in India? These conversations were beyond the pale. Today, they are happening on a day-to-day regular basis. We have created building blocks for technology and defense cooperation that are going to yield dividends for the future. And I think the fact that you have the big picture in mind, that you're not allowing a lot of these, conversations around you, whether it is about the state of Indian democracy, or whether it is about, those questions have become, they are there, and they will always be there between two democracies, but they have become marginal. Or when they are addressed, they are not addressed publicly. So the way you talk to each other, that has changed. Most difficult issues are talked beyond, private and closed doors. You're not taking these out publicly. I think just a few years back, you would do this publicly. You would have a press conference where Americans would say something, Indians would respond. That is not happening anymore at an official level. So I think that there is a good understanding now in Washington as to what India is, in the sense that India is not going to be like Japan or Australia or South Korea. It's not going to be a treaty alliance partner. It is going to be a partner, but of a different kind. Americans have adjusted to that now. They've learned that you have to deal with India in a certain way, and that has paid them dividends. India has also changed. India is also not perpetually cribbing about Pakistan or about every single equipment that is sold to our neighbor. Or India is not cribbing about that Americans don't do anything when China is is threatening us. So I think that conversation that India is saying that, look, there are a lot of problems around India. Some of these problems we can take care of on our own. Some of these problems we need your help. And I think that conversation that allows that space for India being looked at as a power in its own right, and a power that also provides solutions to global problems. That it is not simply complaining, oh, this is bad, that is bad, but also saying that, look, if
you want medicines, I'll send you medicines. You want vaccines, I'll send you vaccines.
You want us to work on climate change? Yes, you are more responsible, but you are also willing to work. So I think that that perception has been created, which has yielded India and Indo-US relations dividends. And hopefully this will last, because this is also very institutionalized. You're now doing so much more with each other. Most number of military exercises, most number of diplomatic conversations, regular high-level interactions. You look at this, the number of times the Indian Prime Minister, US presidents are meeting every year, the Quad. And I think, again, one important aspect, that the relationship is no longer bilateral. It's global. We are sitting in Quad, we are sitting in I2U2 together in the Middle East. So I think the range of things that you are doing with each other is not simply, across each other bilaterally, but at a global level, you are visualizing your relationship in a very different manner. So I think a lot has changed. And I would certainly give a lot of credit to the present dispensation. Mr. Modi has really played his cards very well, because he has also not yielded on some of the critical issues for India. On Russia, for example, we continue to hold our position. But despite that, we have been able to convey to the US that, look, this is our situation, this is our challenge, and this is a position that you should appreciate. And I think Americans have reciprocated.
And of course, how big a role, I'm sure it's a fairly big role. But the China factor was also not that big an issue all this while. And suddenly, yes, we can credit Prime Minister Modi in the current dispensation for the overtures. But had it not been for China,
Absolutely.
and that has played a huge role in bringing India and the US closer. But it, it gives you a sense of deja vu. At the time of the civil nuclear deal, the same brouhaha, etc., was there about the India-U.S. partnership. Well, it sort of died down after, after Manmohan Singh came back from the U.S. Uh, uh, you know, how long is this going to last, and why do you think this is a lasting or a landmark change in the ties between the two nations?
See, the ties between two nations have continued to grow. So, across administrations in the US and across governments in India, you can go back to, Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now Mr. Biden. One constant theme is that all of them wanted to build a relationship with India, which is more forward looking. Similarly, in India, cutting across administrations, we have seen. I mean, Manmohan Singh was about to resign on the nuclear deal. And then Mr. Modi comes in, and let's also remember that Mr. Modi's visa issue. And when it had come to power in 2014, there were a lot of people saying, "What will he do? Will he take revenge on the Americans?" And because of the way he was treated, but he was very pragmatic. And in 2 years' time, he went to the U.S. He delivered this famous speech to the U.S. Congress. And he shifted the goalposts in ways that are quite dramatic, because a lot of our foundation agreements, for example, were stuck. Logistics agreement, communications agreement with the US, which the US wanted, and he just pushed them through. Then came, the whole China thing. That China galvanized the relationship. It accelerated the pace. I think something that would have already that was already in the play, the China factor accelerated those trends. So in 2007, for example, when the first phase of Quad 1.0 was inaugurated, India was not very willing to be part of that. But by 2017, we were more than willing to be part of that. So I think, China factor has galvanized the relationship. And it has certainly given a sense of urgency that if you don't do it today, tomorrow might be too late. But I think if you're looking at it as a linear projection of this relationship, you would agree that it has continued to grow. It is one relationship that has continued to grow. And of course, there are many reasons for that. There is economic ties, people-to-people ties, and technology and trade ties. All of that is growing. But I think to be able to manage this relationship in the context of 21st century, in the context of what our challenges are today, when, as you were saying, when civil nuclear deal was signed, the question was, what next? This is such a dramatic move. What can we do now? And I think now that we look at how technology is driving this relationship, we are seeing that as the second part of this framework, that now India is not part of the technology denial regime that was created by the West, led by the US against India, is now favoring India. So in some ways, all of that has given India this buoyancy that if we are able to exploit it, if we are able to make most of it, I think it will benefit India's developmental trajectory, strategic trajectory, and it will benefit Indo-US relations.